Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday night meditation. My name is Alex. It's wonderful to be here with you today. Today, we are going to have a meditation, a loving kindness meditation, and we're going to have story time. I have a couple of stories here for you. And this is a really wonderful book. They have a copy of this book in the, I'll show the people online as well. I have a copy of this book in the library, I think. It's just called Life of the Buddha. And in the Buddha's teachings, when they were written down, were not chronological. They were ordered by many different ways, by subject, by length, but not in chronological order. And many times we don't exactly know when during the Buddha's teaching these stories happened. So this book attempts to put these stories in order. We know some things, but not other things. And so they're very honest and upfront when they say, we don't know exactly when this happened, but this seems about the right place to put this. And so they tell us this. And it's a wonderful book that I've read, a couple of times, and they get a lot of stories from here. And so the two stories I'm going to tell are the story of the Buddha's half-brother. His name is Nanda, and he was not feeling it as a monk. And so this was the story about how the Buddha came to counsel him on that. And the other story, the big story, is the story of the formation of the order of nuns. Up until that time, there was not a lot of women doing spiritual practice. In the Vedic tradition, the women couldn't do it. And so since India was going through very much a renaissance at the time, a spiritual and philosophical renaissance, the Buddha actually allowed the formation of the order of nuns. But with this story comes, trigger warning, patriarchy, and misogyny. And so I want to point that out specifically, and you'll see why after I kind of tell that story. But it's still a wonderful story to tell. So I'll be telling that as well. Hello, everybody online. One of you. Okay, cool. Is there anyone here your first time at the Dharma Bum Temple? Awesome. How'd you hear about us? Online? That's fine. Yeah, that's what it is for a lot of people. That's why we'll welcome. Lovely to have you. Thanks for coming. Okay. And if you're online, we had one, now we have 6. So please say hello. Love to hear from you. Okay. So the loving kindness meditation we're going to do is, if you haven't done this before, the word that we're talking about when we talk about loving kindness is this word called metta, M-E-T-T-A. And metta, when translated 2,500 years later, has a lot of meanings. It can mean unconditional friendliness, loving kindness, or you could just say goodwill. Goodwill is a really good definition. And it's just simply a wish to be happy. And it's not only a wish for ourselves to be happy, but a wish for others to be happy. And more importantly, a wish for ourselves and others to do the things that cause happiness. And if you know the motto of the Dharma Bum Temple of think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds, then you now know what causes happiness. All of those, thinking good thoughts, speaking good words, doing good deeds, your positive and well-intentioned thoughts, deeds, and actions. And when I say positive and well-intentioned, another word for that in Buddhism that we use is skillful. Our skillful thoughts, words, and actions. These are the things that cause happiness, right? So that's what we're going to do a lot of during this meditation. Hello, everybody online again. All right. So what we're going to do is first do loving kindness for our benefactor. That's like a loved one, anyone who has shown us great love or great kindness. And then we're going to imagine that person or another benefactor doing this practice for us. And our only job during this part of the meditation is to just receive all of their loving kindness into our hearts. Right? And then we're going to do loving kindness for ourselves, and then we're going to do loving kindness for all beings in all directions. Right? We're going to explore the limitless quality of the heart, because the Buddha said that our capacity for loving kindness, for metta, is unlimited, that we can include absolutely everybody. That's our potential. And so we're going to see how far we can go with that. Any questions before we begin this evening? All right. Let's get my handy dandy timer. And let's begin. So just allow your eyes to close, making sure you have that nice and comfortable seated position that's nice and comfortable for you, nice and sustainable so you're not likely to move around too much. And when we sit like a Buddha. And you can even imagine yourselves as a Buddha sitting underneath your own tree of enlightenment, getting ready for the day's abiding. So let's just get connected to the breath. So let's take a deep breath all the way in and all the way out. Not forcing the breath, letting it be quite easy and quite natural at first. And then as time goes on, we can experiment with the breath and see what kind of breath will keep us awake, alert, grounded to the present moment. So just for the next few moments, let's just rest as gently as you can in the sensations of the breath. Just focusing on the breath at the base of the nostrils, feeling the air go in and out as you breathe. To begin our practice of loving kindness, we're first going to think about a benefactor. And again, a benefactor is anyone who has shown us great love and great kindness. Someone it's really easy to have these feelings for. Just think of this person and your just heart gets warmer. And to do this practice for your benefactor, all you have to do is just radiate loving kindness to this person or these people. However you understand that word radiate, wishing them happiness, wishing that they do the things that cause happiness. It always helps in all parts of this meditation to smile. Puts your mind in a better mood. Just for the next few moments, we'll do this practice of loving kindness for our benefactor. Now shifting our focus from loving kindness for our benefactor to now imagining our benefactor doing this practice for us, radiating loving kindness for us, wishing us happiness, wishing that we do the things that cause happiness. And our only job here is to allow all of their loving kindness into our own heart. And you can put your hand over your heart, still smile. And if there's any areas of tension, any part of your heart that can't let all of their loving kindness in, can you then just breathe and give that tension just a little bit of space? That's all you have to do. Just give it a little bit of space. Keep doing the practice. So the next few moments, we'll imagine our benefactor doing this practice for us. And now shifting focus again. Now, can we do this practice for ourselves? Either radiating loving kindness to ourselves or just repeating phrases of loving kindness to ourselves like, May I be happy. May I be safe from inner and outer danger. May I be well in body and mind. May I be at peace and live at ease in this world. And just repeat one or more of those phrases to yourself, thinking about your own wish to be happy, a wish that everyone has for themselves. So you're just as deserving as anyone else to have happiness. To do the things that cause happiness for yourself. And sure, if you want, you can put your hand over your heart, you can smile. They're wonderful antidotes to self-denigration so many of us have. So we'll do this for the next few moments. And finally, we can explore the limitless quality of the heart by doing this practice of loving kindness for all beings in all directions, whatever living beings there may be, the great, the mighty, medium, short, or small. Those living near and far away, the seen and the unseen, the born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any beings in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded. Do this to end our meditation. Just allow your eyes to open. Keeping our mindfulness of loving kindness about us as we stretch our arms and we stretch our legs. We'll do this for like a minute. And then we'll take some questions, and then I have a couple of stories. Like I said, that we have some new people, so I have a couple of stories ready. All right. Any questions on the instructions at all? Hopefully they were relatively straightforward. How about your experience of meditation? Was any part of the meditation easier or harder, or do you want to share kind of what that experience of meditation was like for you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. I made a meditation. All the experience I have doing it is at the end of yoga class.
Right.
And I would say it was easier for me to, it was easier to send out love to someone I knew. And I think it was the hardest to receive that from someone I knew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you said it was difficult to receive it from someone you knew. And so think about this. There are so many people in your life that have been kind to you, that have been beneficial to you. You've experienced their love and their kindness. Parents, siblings, friends, bosses, whomever it might be, and so to think about that, they're kind to you, or they were kind to you and loving to you for a reason. They must see something in me that they liked, that they cared about, in order to do that. And just think about that. You don't have to have any wild realizations or assumptions, like that, because it's hard for everybody many times to have loving kindness for ourselves. And this is just our antidote to it. And if you felt any resistance, good, you're doing the practice correctly, right? So good job. And it only gets better, only gets easier. All right. Glasses. Okay, so I got a couple of stories here. Again, these stories come from this book, Life of the Buddha. And they're kind of related, sort of. This first story is the story of the Buddha's the Buddha's half-brother, Nanda. There was Ananda who was his attendant, but this is Nanda, his half-brother. And, Nanda was talking to the other monks, and he said, you know what? I don't want to live the holy life anymore. this just not for me. I'm very dissatisfied with living the holy life and being a monk. This just isn't for me. And these other monks told the Buddha, and the Buddha said, summon him, tell him I said to come to me and we'll talk about it. And so he goes to the Buddha, and the Buddha asks him, well, why are you dissatisfied with the holy life, with being a monk? And he says, Lord, when I left to renounce the house life, the Sakyan beauty, Yana Parakalyani, let's call her Yana. Yana said, come back soon, Prince. John, are you with us? All right. And he goes, Yana said, come back soon, Prince. And I haven't been able to think of her, anyone else since. It's been dominating my thoughts. And whenever I remember her, I live the holy life unsatisfied. And the Buddha, using his supernormal powers, takes him by the arm. And it says, the Blessed One took the Venerable Nanda by the arm, and as quickly as a strong man might extend his flexed arm or flex his extended arm, they vanished from the grove and appeared among the deities of the 33. Now, on that occasion, 500 nymphs with dove's feet had come to wait upon Sakka, the ruler of the gods. And the Blessed One asked the Venerable Nanda, Nanda, do you see those 500 nymphs with dove's feet? Yes, my lord. What is your opinion, Nanda? Which is more lovely, more beautiful, more alluring, the Sakyam beauty Yana, or these 500 nymphs with dove's feet? And so, first of all, let's just say that one of the reasons I love this story is its realness. He is missing women and sex and sensual pleasures and romance. And, there's this promise of this lovely woman who he loves dearly, and he just wants to be with her. And, the Buddhist stories of this time focus a lot on these monks who are instantly enlightened and have been waiting all this time to become enlightened, and they're monks and they're perfect in their speech and their body and their mind, and all is wonderful. And finally we get a story of like, oh, I'm having a horrible time. I am having a terrible time, and this sucks, and I don't want to do this anymore, right? And so he asked, well, okay, I'll take you up here and show you 500 nymphs with dove's feet, which apparently was a thing back then, right? Or it meant something. And he goes, well, who is more beautiful, your friend Yana or these 500 nymphs with dove's feet? And he answers really honestly. He goes, Lord, the Sakyam beauty Yana is like a scalded she-monkey with her nose and ears lopped off, compared to these 500 nymphs with dove's feet. She does not count at all. She is nothing like them. There is no comparison whatever. These 500 nymphs are infinitely more lovely and beautiful and alluring. Well, thank you for your honesty. And the Buddha goes, well, then enjoy the holy life. Enjoy being a monk. And I guarantee you obtaining 500 nymphs with dove's feet. Which you would think, this doesn't sound like the Buddha at all. But the Buddha has a plan, you see. And so Nanda goes, well, yes, absolutely, I will live the holy life satisfied. So they get back to the grove where they were staying, and the other bhikkhus find out, the other monks find out, and they just start writing him. And they just say, so you're only staying just so you can have 500 nymphs with dove's feet? Like, are you kidding me? You're just a hireling, they said. You're just a sellout. And when all the other monks found out and started writing him, he became very ashamed. Gosh, shit, what did I do? What have I done? So being very ashamed and knowing that he was a sellout, he went into the forest and he meditated. He was very concentrated, and he became enlightened. That's what it took. The Buddha knew that this little ruse is what it's going to take to get him to pay attention and to see how silly he was being, and to see how the fruits of freeing the mind are so much more than whatever 500 nymphs with dove's feet are. So he meditated, he became enlightened. And as soon as he became enlightened, the Buddha knew it. So he was released from his obligation. So he went back to the Buddha and said, or somebody told the Buddha that, oh, the monk Nanda has realized the final goal. And he goes, I know. And so he talked to Nanda and said, no more obligations. No more 500 nymphs with dove's feet. And I like that the Buddha, he needed to find some way to reach Nanda, right? And he says, oh, you're missing Yana so much, the Sakyam Yudi Yana, and now all of a sudden I show you these 500 nymphs with dove's feet, and she's like a she monkey with her arms cut off, and ears cut off, lopped off. I mean, how silly does that sound? And Nanda knew it. Right? And so that's just kind of one of the ways the Buddha had to get him to realize exactly what the heck is going on. Right? So that's a very short story. This is a longer story. And this is the formation of the order of nuns. And this is a really important story. And so this happened about 5 years after the Buddha became enlightened. And he hadn't been back home yet. So he hadn't been back home in like 11 years, right? And he goes back home because he hears about his father's death, his father Sudhana, the king, and he had died in Arhat, an enlightened being. And so he's back, and he's back home at Kapilavatthu, and he's staying in a grove, and his stepmother, Mahapajapati. Her name is, it looks like Prajapati, but they always affix Maha, or the great Mahapajapati, right? And so they call her Mahapajapati, approaches the Buddha. And she says, it would be wonderful, it would be good if the Blessed One would allow women the going forth, the entering into homeless life, so they can attain enlightenment. And the Buddha goes, don't tell me that. And so she asks the second and the third time. He goes, don't ask me that. And he sends her away. And she's really sad about this. And so after a time, he finishes his business there, and he goes off to this other town, Vesali. And Mahapajapati, she's like a rebel. She goes, I don't accept this. And she cuts off her hair. And you have to understand how big of a deal this is. She's a queen. She's lived to be a queen her whole life, or royalty her whole life, and she cuts off her hair. She takes off her fine clothes, and she puts on the robes of a monk or a nun. And she walks barefoot all the way to where the Buddha is. This is a really big deal. This woman who's used to finery and people waiting on her, she's royalty, cuts off all her hair, wears tattered robes of a monk, and walks barefoot, something I guarantee you she is not used to doing, a really long distance to where the Buddha is staying. And so she finally gets there with some of her some other women with her. And she's there at the grove where the Buddha is staying. And Ananda, his attendant, sees her and he goes, "Why do you look like this? Your robes are tattered, your feet are blistered and dirty, your hair is cut off." And she goes, "I asked the Blessed One to allow women to enter into homelessness, to enter into the spiritual life, to be a nun, to be a renunciant." And he said no. So I came here to ask him again. And he said, "Well, hold on. Not like this, you're not. And let me go to him and ask him on your behalf." And so he goes to the Buddha, Ananda does, and he says, "It would be good if women were allowed to go to be nuns, to go into the homeless life, to be a renunciant, and to seek enlightenment." And he said, "Don't ask me that." And the second time and the third time he asked, the Buddha goes, "Don't ask me that, go away." And then Ananda's super smart, by the way. Ananda thinks about it and he says, "Well, let me ask him another way." I'm going to read something. He goes, "Lord, are women capable, after the going forth from house life into homelessness in the Dharma and the discipline declared by the Perfect One, of realizing the fruit of stream entry, or once return, or non-return, or arhatship, which are just the 4 stages of enlightenment?" And the Buddha goes, "They are." And Ananda says, "If that is so, Lord, then since Mahapajapati Gautami has been exceedingly helpful to the Blessed One, when as his mother's sister she was his nurse, his foster mother, his giver of milk, she suckled the Blessed One when his own mother died. Since that is so, Lord, it would be good if women could obtain the going forth." And the Buddha goes, "Only if she accepts these 8 capital points." And these 8 capital points are known as the Garu Dharmas, or the 8 heavy Dharmas. Right? And here are, maybe I'll read all of them, but here are the points, the things that she has to do. A bhikkhuni, or a nun, who has been admitted even 100 years, must pay homage to, get up for, reverentially salute, and respectfully greet a bhikkhu admitted that day. A bhikkhuni must not spend the rainy season, in a place where there are no bhikkhus or monks. Every half month, a nun should expect 2 things from the sangha of bhikkhus, from monks: the appointment of the upasita day of observance each half month, and a visit for exhortation or criticism. At the end of the rainy season, a nun must invite criticism of both sanghas, the men and the women. When the bhikkhuni has committed a grave offense, she must do penance before both sanghas. A probationer who seeks admission must do so from both sanghas, men and women. A nun must never find fault with or abuse a bhikkhu in any manner at all. From today onwards, it is not allowed for nuns to address discourses to monks, but it is allowed the other way. And so that sucks. When you hear that at face value, that's terrible, right? So we're going to get into that a little more in a minute. And so Ananda goes back to Mahapajapati and tells her this. And because the Buddha says, well, if she can accept these points, she is fully admitted. And so he goes to Mahapajapati and says, well, do you accept this? And she goes, Lord Ananda, suppose a woman or man, young, youthful, fond of ornaments, with a head washed, had gotten a garland of lotuses or jasmines or roses. She would accept it with both hands and place it on her head. So too do I accept these 8 capital points, not to be transgressed, as long as life lasts. So she says, it's like giving me a garland. I accept this. Absolutely. No problem. And then she was fully admitted. And then the Buddha says, Ananda, if women had not obtained the going forth from the house life into homelessness, had they not admitted to the order of monks in the Dharma and the discipline, the holy life, or Buddhism, would have lasted long. The holy life would have lasted 1,000 years. But since we allowed women, it'll only be 500 years. Just as clans with many women and few men are easily ruined by robbers and bandits, so too in the Dharma and discipline in which women attain the going forth, the holy life does not last long. Just as when the blight called gray mildew falls on a field of ripening rice, that field of ripening rice does not last long. Just as when the blight called red dust falls on a field of ripening sugarcane, that field of ripening sugarcane does not last long. So too, in the Dharma and discipline in which women attain the going forth, the holy life does not last long. As a man might construct in advance an embankment so that the waters of a great reservoir should not cause a flood, so I too have made known in advance these 8 capital points. But she was admitted. She was absolutely admitted, and she also asked that the women with her be admitted as well, because they wanted to be admitted as well. So they did this a more formal way, where they admitted these other women with her. And then these other women tried to kick Mahapajapati out, saying that she wasn't admitted the right way. And then the Buddha goes, no. I said she was in, so she's in. And she eventually became an enlightened being, fully enlightened, as did many women. In Buddhism, there are these 2 books called the Tarigata and the Taragata, the enlightenment stories of enlightened monks and nuns. And in the Tarigata, which is the nuns book, many stories of fully enlightened nuns. And so when I say trigger warning, patriarchy and misogyny, so a lot of old school monks will use this story as a reason not to admit women, not to make them able to be fully ordained as nuns. The problem is that when you read this story, and I read a lot of it, because you can kind of smell the bullshit. You can smell it. And, I haven't verified this myself, but there was a nun who said that, hey, a lot of these stories, when they were written down, a lot of things were added later, you can tell, because they were added in a different script. Because of misogyny, patriarchy, they wanted to purposely keep the women down. So the part about, Buddhism not lasting, because they were saying Buddhism, the sasana, or Buddhism would only last 500 years and not 1,000 years. Well, it's 2,500 years later, and we're still here, right? The part about that, the part about the Buddhist hesitation, the part about all these horrible things, because we're admitting women, that all that stuff was added later by patriarchal men who wanted to keep women down. And it's still a fight. And we're finally making headway. In Buddhist countries like Thailand, for example, they don't allow it at all. They have something called mechis. I forget exactly what that means. But so a lot of times they have to get admitted in another tradition. So the deal is, so the last Buddhist nun in the Theravada tradition, they died out in like 1017, I think it was, and most probably for patriarchal reasons. They just wouldn't allow them anymore. And since that's a broken lineage, you can't restart it. So that's another thing that they're saying. Well, sorry, broken lineage, can't restart it. Because you need nuns and monks to admit the nuns. And since you don't have any nuns, there can't be any nuns. Stupid. And so a lot of these nuns will be fully ordained in another tradition that was not unbroken and then come back. And that's another way. Plus, in the Theravada tradition, they are just finally just doing it. They're finally just admitting them. It's a slow process, but it's happening. And that's really, really good. So this is a wonderful story of the determination of Mahapajapati, the Buddha's stepmother, the person, the Buddha's mother died when he was 7 days old, and she stepped up immediately and suckled him and raised him, nursed him. And that's what Ananda was saying, like, well, hey, she did all these wonderful things for you. Allow her the going forth. And he did. And so we think that a lot of this crap was added later just to kind of keep them down, and it certainly worked. But in like American Buddhism and modern Buddhism, we would never do anything like that. In the Buddhism in this country, there are probably more female teachers than male teachers. Or at least it's very equal. I think there's probably more female teachers. Good. I like that. And so, those are my stories. Any questions that I can answer about any of those two stories? Yes, John.
Might overreach all of that, but it's just made me think, are there any major world religions that have a female figure as the leader, the originator, the master, the beginner? I mean, there's Jesus, there's Muhammad, there's Zoroastrians, there's all these guys.
Right.
What's going on?
Right. Human nature, power, love of power, punching down on vulnerable people. Yeah, it's easy.
I know that there are certain like niche little societies and deities that do evoke women as the primary.
Sure, I mean there have been like wonderful strides. I know in like Self-Realization Fellowship, after Yogananda died, there was another guy who was there for 3 years, and then they elected a woman president, and she was president for like 55 years.
But a man founded it.
A man founded it, yeah. I mean, there have been a couple of cults that women founded.
That's what I mean.
But not major religious things, yeah, because it's been so patriarchal for so long. And so, but we can change that in Buddhism in this country, and that's what we've done.
Well, you're right. I've seen a lot of women with shaved heads and saffron robes. It's like probably more than. Of course, I live in City Heights, so it's full of Vietnamese people. So there's a lot of that.
Yeah. So it's changing slowly but surely.
It's just an insight flash in my head. Like, wow, where are the women?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's changing slowly but surely, and so it's getting there. And so I think it's important to bring light to, hey, I love Buddhism, I love this practice, but hey, here's some problems. Here are some problems we need to do something about. And we're going to shine light on these problems and do something about them.
Well, and at least they're willing to. I'm like,
yeah, and we can do so in this country. There's so many female teachers that are wonderful and credible here in this country. And I'm very grateful for that. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Let's join our palms together at our hearts, please. And may the benefits of this meditation, this story time, be received by all beings in all directions. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be joyful and at ease. May all beings be happy. May all beings be loved and seen for the beautiful, radiant beings that they are, that you are. Thank you for coming. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your week. There are classes. There's next one tomorrow. There's one tomorrow with Travis. There's one on Saturday with Jeff. And we'll see you next time. Bye now.